I found one photo. Just one. Him and his ex, smiling in a way that instantly made something cold move through my body. I confronted him, thinking I just needed an explanation so I could calm down and move on. But that conversation didn't bring me peace. It made everything worse, because after that, I couldn't stop. I kept looking for more photos, more dates, more clues, more proof, more answers. I told myself I was trying to understand, but at some point, I had to admit something devastating. I wasn't getting closer to peace. I was reopening the wound over and over again with my own hands. Before we get into this, tell me in the comments, have you ever gotten stuck on one detail that kept hurting you more every time you looked at it? A photo, a message, a date, a social media post, a comment, a name, something you thought would help you understand, but instead it pulled you deeper into pain? And while you're there, tell me where you're watching from. I always love seeing where you all are and how these stories resonate with women in so many different places. Stay with me until the end, because today we're talking about something so many women experience after a relational wound. The desperate search for details that feels like control, but slowly turns into self-inflicted trauma. There is a point after certain emotional injuries when the mind becomes convinced that more information will finally bring peace. If I can just understand exactly what happened, if I can just find one more clue, if I can just know the full timeline, if I can just see what he saw, what he said, what she looked like, when it happened, how long it lasted, what it meant, then maybe I can finally settle down inside myself. But that is not always what happens. Sometimes the search for clarity becomes a cycle of re-exposure, a cycle of reopening the same wound and calling it understanding, a cycle of looking at the very thing that hurts you most and believing the next detail will somehow be the one that finally gives you control. This is especially true after a trigger that hits fast and hard like a photo, because a photo doesn't just show information. It shows atmosphere,
chemistry,
body language, a smile, a memory you were never part of. It can make the past feel vividly alive in 1 second. And if the wound is already there, that image can become almost impossible to leave alone. It becomes a mental loop, a piece of evidence, a source of pain, a portal into obsession. That's what makes this kind of suffering so confusing. From the outside, it can look like you're just overthinking. But from the inside, it feels like your nervous system is trying to solve a threat. It is trying to make sense of a rupture. It is trying to close an open loop. And because the mind is wired to believe uncertainty is dangerous, it starts treating more information like survival. But not all information helps. Some information grounds you. Some information protects you. Some information clarifies what decision you need to make. And then there's the other kind, the kind that only feeds the trauma. The kind that gives you 5 seconds of false control and hours of emotional collapse afterward. This episode is about that second kind, because sometimes the thing you call looking for answers is no longer helping you heal. Sometimes it is simply giving your pain more images to live inside. Let's imagine Brooke's story. Brooke had been dating Ethan for a little over a year. The relationship wasn't perfect, but it felt real. They had routines, intimacy, jokes, plans. There were things she trusted, or thought she trusted. She wasn't walking around thinking there was some giant hidden problem lurking beneath the surface. Then one night, while scrolling through old tagged photos, she found it. A picture of Ethan with his ex. At first glance, it didn't look dramatic. Just a photo. But the second Brooke saw it, something in her body reacted before her mind even caught up. The way they were standing, the closeness, the expression on his face. The version of him she had never seen in that exact way. It hit some part of her so fast that she could barely explain why it hurt. She stared at it longer than she meant to. Then she clicked into more. Another photo, an old comment, a tagged location, a vacation picture, a little fragment of a life that felt suddenly too vivid. Brooke's chest got tight. The next day, she confronted Ethan. She told herself she was doing the healthy thing, communicating, clearing it up. She expected an answer that would calm her down, maybe even make her feel silly for worrying. Instead, he got defensive. He said it was old. He said she was making something out of nothing. He said he barely even thought about that relationship anymore. He said she was spiraling over a picture. But the conversation didn't soothe her. It unsettled her even more, because now she had both the image and his defensiveness, the trigger and the lack of emotional safety around the trigger. Instead of closure, the confrontation gave her a new problem. She no longer trusted her own ability to let it go. So she kept looking. She went back through old photos again, then through his old tags, then his ex's page, then old comments, then dates, then screenshots, then timelines. She wanted to know when those photos were taken, whether he had been telling her the truth about when that relationship ended, whether he looked happier with her, whether there were overlaps she hadn't seen, whether the emotional intensity in those old images meant something about who he was with Brooke now. And every time she found something new, she told herself, this is the last thing I need to see. But it never was, because the problem had stopped being the photo. Now the problem was the cycle. She would feel the urge, search, find something, get flooded, cry, shake, obsess, compare, promise herself to stop, then come back again a few hours later. The same image began living in her body. She could be driving, showering, working, trying to fall asleep, and suddenly she would see them again in her mind. Not because the photo mattered that much objectively, but because she had fed it so much attention that it started colonizing her inner life. And at some point, Brooke realized something terrifying. She was no longer searching because she thought the next detail would help. She was searching because she didn't know how to stop being pulled back to THE's source of the pain. So, why does this happen? Because after a relational trigger, especially one connected to jealousy, comparison, betrayal, or insecurity, the mind often becomes hypervigilant. It starts scanning for danger, inconsistency, hidden meaning, and unresolved threat. That hypervigilance can feel like intelligence, like caution, like self-protection, but it can also become compulsive. Brooke believed she was trying to get clarity, and in the beginning, that may even have been partly true. Finding the photo shocked her system. Confronting Ethan and receiving defensiveness instead of grounding made the whole thing feel even more unstable. So her mind did what traumatized minds often do. It tried to regain control through investigation. If I can just understand the timeline, maybe I'll calm down. If I can just know whether he lied, maybe I'll feel safer. If I can just see the full picture, maybe I can stop imagining worse things. That logic feels convincing when you're inside it. The problem is that obsessive searching does not always produce real clarity. Often it produces a short burst of relief followed by a much bigger wave of pain. You find something. Your brain lights up with a feeling of now I know. Then 5 minutes later, the emotional cost crashes in. The comparison starts. The imagery starts. The rumination deepens. And because the relief was so brief, your mind goes back out looking for the next detail. That is how the cycle feeds itself. A little control, a lot of pain, then the desperate belief that one more answer will finally fix the pain that the previous answer intensified. This is what makes the process so brutal. It stops being curiosity and becomes self-re-exposure. Not because she wants to suffer, but because her nervous system is confusing knowing more with being safer. And when the trigger is an image, it gets even harder. Because images bypass logic. They land quickly, emotionally, physically. A photo can become symbolic. It stops being just evidence of a past event and starts becoming a container for all your fears. Am I enough? Did he love her more? Is he lying? Am I competing with a ghost? Did I misunderstand this relationship? That one image starts carrying far more than the pixels on the screen. And then every new detail gets pulled into the same emotional system. A caption becomes loaded. A date becomes loaded. A location becomes loaded. A smile becomes loaded. Suddenly the mind isn't just collecting facts. It is building an entire inner world of pain around them. This is why Brooke didn't feel more grounded after all that searching. She felt more dysregulated, more exhausted, more consumed, because she wasn't only learning information. She was repeatedly exposing herself to the very material her body experienced as threatening. And this is an important distinction. Not all investigation is unhealthy. Sometimes you do need information. Sometimes details matter. Sometimes they help you make decisions, establish reality, protect yourself, or name what happened clearly. But there is a point where the search stops serving truth and starts serving compulsion. That point is usually marked by one thing: the new detail does not help you move. It only helps you hurt. And when that happens, the investigation is no longer a path out of the wound. It becomes part of the wound itself. And this is where the damage becomes deeply personal, what this cycle starts doing inside her. Because once Brooke got trapped in that loop, it didn't stay on the screen. It entered her sleep,
her body,
her concentration, her ability to feel present, her sense of dignity, her relationship with herself. She started waking up in the middle of the night and checking again. She would tell herself she was just going to look for one thing. Then suddenly an hour had passed, and she was spiraling through old content she never needed to see. She lost time, lost appetite, lost peace. Her body became tense and restless. Her chest tightened. Her stomach dropped. She felt nauseous, shaky, and emotionally raw. But what made it even harder was the shame. Not just shame about the photo. Shame about what she had become around it. She knew the searching was hurting her. She knew she felt worse every time. She knew she was making herself relive something that kept breaking her open. And still, she kept going back. That made her feel weak, out of control, embarrassed. She started thinking things like, why can't I stop? Why am I doing this to myself? What is wrong with me? That self-judgment only deepened the injury. Because now she wasn't just dealing with the original trigger. She was also carrying the humiliation of feeling trapped in her own response to it. This is what people don't understand about obsessive detail fixation after emotional injury. It is not vanity. It is not simple jealousy. It is not just overthinking. It is often the nervous system trying to solve uncertainty through repetition, even when repetition is making the wound worse. Brooke was not looking because she enjoyed it. She was looking because part of her still believed the next answer would give her relief. But relief never came. Only more material to obsess over. More images. More imagined scenes. More comparison. More emotional flooding. And over time, she noticed something devastating. The original pain had started expanding into everything. She wasn't just triggered by the photo anymore. She was triggered by songs, places, time gaps, social media, old stories, even moments that had nothing directly to do with the ex at all. Her mind had been trained into a state of scanning. That kind of hypervigilance can consume a woman, because now she is not really living in a relationship anymore. She is living in a mental investigation that never reaches a satisfying conclusion. And every time she goes back to the search, she reinforces the idea that the wound still needs to stay open. At some point, Brooke had to face something she didn't want to admit. She was not getting closer to peace. She was getting better at hurting herself in a pattern that felt temporarily productive. That realization was painful, but it was also the beginning of healing. Because she finally saw that the mind's demand for one more detail was not a trustworthy guide.
It was a trauma response.
It was pain asking for control in the only language it knew. And the answer was not more searching. The answer was learning how to stop feeding the loop, even while the questions still felt unfinished. That is a brutal kind of discipline, but it matters. Because not every unanswered question needs another wound opened in order to exist. And not every missing detail is worth the cost your body pays to go after it. So let me close this episode with one very clear truth. Not every answer heals. Some answers only push the blade in deeper. And that is one of the hardest things to accept when you are stuck in a loop like this. Because the mind keeps insisting that more information will calm you down. That if you can just see one more thing, understand one more piece, check one more account, compare one more timeline, then you'll finally be able to breathe. But sometimes the opposite is true. Sometimes the thing that is hurting you most is not just what you found. It is the ritual you built around going back to it. The repeated return. The self-re-exposure. The way your pain started disguising itself as investigation, and your investigation slowly became a form of self-harm. And I don't say that dramatically. I say it honestly, because Brooke wasn't just being curious. She was flooding her own nervous system over and over again. She was trying to soothe uncertainty by feeding it images. She was trying to get control by giving the wound more material to live inside. That is exhausting. And it is deeply lonely. If you have lived something like this, I want you to hear something clearly. You are not weak because you got trapped in the details. You are not pathetic because you kept looking. You are not crazy because a single photo opened something huge inside you. Your body reacted to a threat, and your mind tried to find control. That makes sense. But making sense does not mean you have to keep obeying the loop. You do not owe every question an answer if the cost of getting it is your peace. You do not need to keep collecting pain just because your mind keeps labeling it clarity. And you do not need to reopen your own wound every night just because uncertainty feels unbearable. Some things do need to be known. Some truths do need to be faced. But there's a point where knowing more stops being truth and starts becoming trauma. And when you reach that point, choosing not to look again is not denial. It is protection. That does not mean the hurt disappears instantly. It does not mean the image leaves your body right away. It does not mean the questions stop knocking. But it does mean you stop helping the wound stay alive. That matters. Because healing is not always found in the next detail. Sometimes it begins when you finally admit that the search itself has become part of what's breaking you. And if that is where you are, then maybe the bravest thing you can do is not to find the next answer. Maybe the bravest thing is to stop giving your pain more pictures to feed
On.
Now I really want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever gotten trapped in details that only made your pain worse? Was it a photo, a message, a date, a comment, a timeline, a social media account? At what point did you realize you weren't getting clarity anymore? You were getting hurt all over again. Share your story because your experience might help another woman finally understand that more information is not always the same thing as more peace. And if this episode spoke to you, like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one.